Welcome to Money, Sex, and God. This is the podcast of all things that are taboo, the things we don't talk about. And in Money, Sex, and God, I love bringing on people that I love so dearly, creators and influencers and impact makers that are fucking around with our conditioned notions of money, sex, and God. That's why we're here, because we want to give you other opportunities to see things in a new way, to start shifting your reality, and maybe even finding a little more pleasure in your day-to-day life. So today's guest, I'm really excited about. One of the reasons I started a podcast is just so I could like chat about really cool shit with people that I love. I like to be real, and it's like an excuse to do that and hang out with like people I would already want to hang out with, but now y'all get to see it, which is so fun for me. So that's what I'm doing today. But I want to give you a proper intro first. Our guest is incredible with sound and movement. They right? Pronouns that we fucking with, Tasha?
Whatever.
Okay. I always want to say they. I don't know why, but okay.
Fine.
Okay, cool. They, when I first met them, there was this huge epic dance party in Brooklyn that I went to actually last year, right before I went, basically the last one that y'all had done. And I remember seeing the freedom and the movement, and that sex was celebrated, like not overtly creepy, but like in a way of, yay, we have bodies and we can be sexy and all of this is allowed, and just jam-packed with like epic, queer, amazing, badass humans. And you were just dropping the beats and dropping them down into who they were. It was truly cathartic, like a really beautiful experience. And I'd love to hear more about that and dive into even more of your life and let everyone see more of your magic. So without further ado, welcome Tasha Blank to Money, Sex, and God. I'm so happy to have you. Yay!
Thanks, love. Glad to be here. Glad to spend my Tuesday afternoon with you.
Me too. I'm so excited. So how long were you doing the Get Down? Let's start there. Like, what made you start it? What was that like, that beginning?
Well, I'll start at the end, which is what you just mentioned, which was the last one that happened was our 7-year anniversary, which is so poetic. Well, your question was what made me start it?
Yeah.
Well, dance was the thing that reminded me who I was. It saved my life. It saved my soul. It opened me to an experience of being alive that I didn't even know was possible. It brought me back into connection with parts of myself and levels of joy I hadn't felt since I was a child. And when I rediscovered that, and the kind of dancing that I'm talking about is freeform, ecstatic, aware, awake, alive, here and now, self-expression from the inside out, from what feels good, not how it looks, not choreography, not being cool, not having the right moves, but the inside out kind of dance that comes from your soul and feels like freedom. And that experience I had when I was around 20, the first time I went, well, actually before, when I was 20, when I was a sophomore in college. And then, and I discovered the electronic music scene, and then ultimately landed at Burning Man that year, and had this big awakening to who I really was after having been a trained classical dancer for many, many years growing up. And having that world, the classical dance world, feel very suffocating, and really kind of do the opposite of what freeform dance did. So I had that experience when I was in my early 20s. And as soon as that happened, it was a big wake up. It was instant, it was so powerful, like night and day experience of being alive and experience of being in connection with myself. I was like, I gotta make my life about this. Like, whatever just happened, I will follow this forever.
Yeah.
And it was a few years. It was, I finished college. I ultimately found, different conscious dance practices and somatic movement modalities that were my introduction and became my laboratory for accessing super altered, expanded states of being and expressing on the dance floor. And I started the first party I did was called Get Your Dance On, which was like, I know it doesn't have quite the ring of the Get Down. This is my first one.
It's sweet.
That was from like 2009, 2010 to 12 maybe. And that was it was sober. It was in yoga studios. Before that was like a thing, you know. Right. I was like, I'm gonna do this party in a yoga studio. People are gonna be barefoot. And I was not DJing them. There was a bunch of rooms. I was hiring DJs, and we had live musicians, and we had chill spaces, and we had chocolate, and it was the whole vibe.
Yum.
It was fun. It was fun. And the you know, people really loved it. It was not sustainable at all. It wasn't a sustainable business model by any means. And I really cut my teeth pretty hard on it. You know, it taught me a lot. And ultimately is the thing that catalyzed me to accept that I needed to learn how to DJ. Because I wasn't doing it. And I was afraid of it. And, you know, it's such a male dominated space. And I was this sort of like early 20s insecure dancer who had always worshipped DJs because they gave me this experience of total ecstasy. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. But turns out like you can learn pretty much anything. And so I learned. And then in 2013, started the Get Down at Cielo. Nice. Which RIP Cielo, one of the best clubs in New York City. Incredible sound system. It was like I started DJing and was doing these dance classes in a yoga studio for maybe 9 months before starting to Get Down. So I learned how to DJ. I had the basic skills down. I was playing for people, but I was still new. So it was like I kind of had my learner's permit, you know, driving. And then Cielo came along and it was like I got handed a Ferrari to drive, which really made me level up. I was like, okay, I'm driving a Ferrari now as a Function 1 sound system. I was like, I better be on point with my DJ skills. And that was the beginning.
Oh my God. I love that so much. I know too, because I know you, right? And I'd love to hear about what started to happen as you started to become, like, what started to happen to your social circle, to how you knew yourself and who you knew yourself to be, and maybe even your family. Because I mean, I know growing up for you was a different experience than the experience that you're in now, right? And like, so as you started to mature in your freedom is the best way I could describe it. Like, as you started to jump into like, this is who the fuck I am, right? Like I drive Ferraris for my sound systems now in these epic clubs. And this is what I'm going to do with my life. What were some things that happened? I was imagining that you'd have like pushback, right? Like I would imagine pushback from your folks or your family or your friends of like, what are you doing, Tasha? Like, what is this? Or maybe it was internal. Like, what was that kind of inner battle like?
I love that question. Well, it has there are many answers to that question.
Great.
My family's always been pretty supportive.
Yeah.
My parents didn't. I think my mom has come to 2 Get Downs, and my dad came to 1, which was a miracle. My sister came to like every friggin' Get Down there ever was because she's a badass and loves dancing. And so obviously she was always super got it, which was great. It's really an amazing game of hide and seek I have played with myself in this life. I was so good at hiding in this identity of fear and insecurity. And, you know, for the first couple of years of doing the Get Down, I would get scared every time I went up to DJ. And I would get on, I knew I had to get on the mic. Like there was something that was coming through me, and I knew that I had to do it. I knew that this had to be done in order to create the space that I wanted to help create. And I was so uncomfortable and showed up for it and allowed the thing to come through me. And I actually just watched a video last night of like 5 years ago. So it was maybe year 2 or 3 of the Get Down, me on the mic. And it was when I would plan what I would say, a moment of silence, and I would deliver like a sermon. And as the years went on, I stopped planning, and I would just like let whatever wanted to come out of my mouth come out. But at the beginning, I planned, and I watched this thing last night. I was like, I was good. Like, damn, that was articulate. Like, message was on point. The crowd was going wild. and it made me realize the contrast between my internal experience at that time, usually, versus what was actually coming through me. Mm-hmm. And one of the great gifts of the pandemic and of stepping back from everything and really getting that bird's eye view is realizing that I had just these brilliant blinders that kept me from really knowing my impact, from like receiving the love, from fully having that experience, because of an imprint of wanting to stay small that was very, very ingrained from growing up, and being afraid of my impact, being afraid of my voice, being afraid of my power. So it's this very weird, being like our psyches. I don't know how we do it. Because I was doing the thing.
Right.
But somehow was not fully seeing it and had not internalized that as, this is who I am, this is what I do. So, but it was around all the time. So when COVID happened and all the external went away, I realized that I hadn't internalized any of that. And this time has been a really amazing to be teaching, to be reconnecting with the dance, to be DJing, but very removed. I'm DJing for people who are in their living rooms all over the world. There's a little Zoom screen, and it's not the dopamine hit that I used to get. It's not the like big reflection of what I was putting out, that we had when there was 500 of us in a big club. And so it's been this very intense sort of boot campy learning to connect to the thing and hold that space and hold that knowing and show up for it and show up as it, because I know I need to, and actually own it. So yeah, ironically, actually, I've probably internalized more of it this year without it actually happening in the way that it was.
Yeah, I'm feeling like we're not getting that live feedback. So where is God in that? Where is soul? Where is spirit when there isn't that rush, right? That immediate reflection, that mirror reflection right there. Where is it? Yeah. And you said like you're connecting to the thing. You went like this. What the fuck is the thing?
The thing.
How would you describe the thing? I know what the thing is, but for everyone listening, what's the thing?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. What's the thing? I love that when I do podcasts with my friends, I always forget we're recording and I'm talking to a bunch more people.
It's okay. That's why I was like, hang on.
What's the thing?
I know. Some people won't know the thing. I'm like, they won't know what the fuck we're talking about.
The thing is everything beyond what little Tasha learned when she got words, when she was handed words and ideas about who she was and how the world works and how people respond to her. Like existence is there before we learn words. before we have language, before we label things, there is a wide open field of aliveness that is self-organized, fucking itself into art. Oh my God, I love that I can say this on your podcast. I usually can't say this on podcasts. Fucking itself into art all the time. And then, because we got to figure out how to navigate in the world and meet our fitness goals, as it's called in like evolutionary biology, there's a lot of evidence actually that proves that how different species perceive reality in order to meet their unique fitness goals, to play the game they're playing, has nothing to do with what's actually here. But that is a whole other conversation.
It's all made up.
So the thing is, what happens when I get out of my own way, my own bullshit, my own thinking, my own like worrying and agenda and identity and need to prove things, and disidentify with that machine that's always running. It's very useful, you know, like it helps why I can walk, it's why I can talk to you, it's why I can like drive a car and not have to relearn how to drive a car every time.
Right.
But when I disidentify from that machine and believing all the 80,000 thoughts it's thinking every day, most of which don't help anything, or even correspond to what's happening. Anyway.
So true.
Yeah, for real.
Like, why am I thinking about that? It's not real.
Nope. That thing's never even gonna happen.
Right.
Probably never gonna happen. That conversation, probably never gonna happen.
Yep.
And I open up to something bigger, something comes through.
Right.
It is an energy, it is life force. Different people experience it in different ways. Sometimes it feels like my whole body is filled with light and tingling. And
sometimes it's orgasm.
Sometimes it's an orgasm.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a song. Sometimes it is a dance that I did not plan, but does me. Sometimes it's an email. And sometimes it's a sermon.
Right.
You know, at the get down, I would just, towards the end, especially the last year or two, I really started to get into that and into less and less about, because that video I watched from 5 years ago, like, it's very poetic what I said, like very articulate, beautifully said. I'm like, my ego must have been very satisfied. But what it started becoming about was, how can I get up here and get on this mic and just let whatever wants to come out of my face come out, thereby being the thing and giving everybody permission to do exactly that in their dance, just showing up and letting whatever wants to come out of their bodies come out when the music comes on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And if that happens, if all people, this is my constant theory, right? If all people do that, right? All people just live authentically in whatever wants to happen, instead of thinking and analyzing and strategizing and putting all the little labels and boxes and la la la, then we'll all probably be jamming. Like, we'll be cool. Everyone, like, right? You were talking about self-organizing. Like, it would all just self-organize. It'd just be easy.
It would be a completely different experience of life for everyone.
Right. Yeah, totally. So I know our audience pretty well. And so I know what they're thinking. They're going, how, Tasha, how does one, they're going, how does one clear out their pains and their sorrows and their complaining and their anxiety in order to show up as this thing?
Well, you know, first of all, you don't clear it out in order to show up as the thing. You meet yourself in the pain, in the anxiety. Like I said,
y'all heard that?
The first couple years of doing the Get Down and onwards, I felt like not just nervous, deep primal fear. Like I grew up with severe social anxiety, trauma. Like my body, my nervous system would go, I was in a state of freeze before stepping on to DJ. And it was like the only thing to do in those moments is to fully embrace what is happening. Because if we fight it, if we try to get rid of it, it gets stuck and we're just in it then. The moment we embrace it and let go of the thoughts and drop into the energy, the actual, like usually if we're stuck in our thoughts, there's something that we're trying to not feel.
Right.
So if we drop thoughts and actually go underneath those, because usually those thoughts are the ego's strategies to get rid of whatever feeling we're afraid of, or that we think is not allowed, or that we think is dangerous, or that we think is uncomfortable, or not okay to feel in front of other people. If we actually give ourselves the space to drop into that feeling and ask, what actually is this? And then feel for the answer and stop fighting it, then we return it, we liberate it from that stuckness that fight creates, and we return it to its natural state, which is motion, which is what all of life is. You know, everything, all energy wants to move and will,
Right.
if we make space for it. And that's one of the reasons that I love dance so much, and this kind of dance specifically, where the practice is about, you know, it's a moving meditation. It's fine to think. You're always going to think. The machine's always going to do what it does. But the practice is in dropping below that and tuning into the sensations that are here and actually going deeper into this whole cosmos that lives below our heads and exploring and making space and using the pulse of the rhythm and the contraction and expansion of our breath. Because all of life, its most basic level is contracting and expanding all the time, everything.
It's the orgasm again. There it is.
Ones and zeros, rhythms in and out.
Right.
And when we move with that contraction and expansion and allow it to happen, it goes in a trajectory of expansion. So putting our bodies into a beat and handing our breath back to its fullest in and out, our nervous systems will begin to unwind themselves, because we're giving them the space to pulse in and out, and ultimately that leads to so much more space. And then all the feels that we've been avoiding come up and move through us and go away. Here, turn into something else, turn into energy that we can use, because it takes so much energy to hold that stuff in.
Yes.
Right. So I don't even remember what your question was.
I don't either, but it's just where the energy on it. That's perfect. So you said something key here, and I want you to talk a little bit about how you create, because I think you and I create. I mean, I just spent a weekend with you, so I know this. We create in the same manner, right? So can you walk us through like your creative process? Because now you're planning more awesome shit, right? It's happening. And I think a lot of people that are on this podcast, but also everyone coming to Creatrix, which you're going to be DJing at. Yes, y'all, did you hear that? Tasha's DJing Creatrix. It's going to be so good. Saturday night, epic movement experience. So they're all probably wondering, how do you create something sustainable? How do you create something that makes enough of an impact without having to push or force or strategize your way through it. And so what's your I mean, everyone knows my process is orgasm. So what's your process of how you make that manifest in the world?
I've never been asked this question.
Great.
Well, you know, it changes. Like my ego, my conditioning believes that I need to have a to-do list, and that I need to check things off, and that I need to get things done in an orderly manner in order to be good, and that there's a way that I'm supposed to do it, and that will give me the feeling of that I'm accomplishing things. And that does not breed creativity. It does not make me more productive. And what works is to actually be connected to the flow of life, to be in motion, to dance, to go for walks and go outside, to hang out with people. Like, think about the good ideas that you've gotten, like the good ideas that you've had. How many of them did you come up with when you were trying to think of an idea? Probably none. Probably none of them. Most of them probably appeared in the shower, when you were going for a run, when you were in conversation and something emerged in the space between you and another person because they were bringing in all this stuff you hadn't thought about before. Like, the good stuff emerges when I make space for it. Instead of thinking that I'm the one doing it, and that the harder that I work and the more that I suffer, like, the more prolific I will be. This is not true.
Nothing actually happens the harder you work and the more you suffer, right? And if it does happen, it lands dead, right?
It's never good. Well, and because is that really what I want to give people? Is that the transmission I want to be offering people, to try to make the world a better place and give humans like a truer experience, more joyful and pleasurable experience of themselves, coming from a place that I'm writing in a bad mood and hard on myself? No. I like to write my rough drafts via voice note when I'm driving, listening to music, singing, and then a paragraph will come out and I'll just hit record. And I do all the stuff I've been generating about the stuff I'm creating with dance. I'm creating a training program. Every bit of that I have written in the middle of a dance. Like, I've been dancing here in my living room, and then something will drop in and I'll go write it down. And then come back to it later. That's the thing. There's a difference, and my sister actually talks about this a lot. She teaches writing, and she talks a lot about generative versus editorial brain. Completely different brain space. So that generative energy where the new things are coming through you is a completely different process than when you go back and you're like, okay, how do we make this make sense so that it can actually meet people where they're at,
right?
And be so that they can receive it.
Yeah. And to me, what this feels like energetically is like when you're in the expansion, right? Because you're talking about expansion and contraction. When you're in this expansion, so for me, when I'm in my orgasm, that's when I'm downloading, right? That's when I download everything. That's when I downloaded this fucking Facebook group that we're going live in. It was an orgasm. The pleasure circle, great, right? And then I have to go and look at it after and contract the energy so that I can actually manifest it. And then people can actually digest that fucker. Because up here, it's non-digestible, right? It's so huge that we have to actually alchemize it, like, through our systems, so it can be planted. And so people can be like, yes, I can chew that. I got this, right? Which to me is the birthing process. Like, it's literally like, here we go, out, down and out. And I think where it gets stuck, like you're saying, is when we hijack here at the editorial brain. We start second guessing, like, well, what if the pleasure circle isn't a good name? Or what if no one shows up to my party? Like, we start going there, and then all that energy just goes and nothing is birthed. Doesn't work. So I've seen it over and over. And I think it's like such a yummy, especially for people starting out. Like, one thing I love about you, Tasha, is that you have a very, like, what's the word? You have a very even kind of filling out of all the different energies. Like, you don't just live in one energy of like airy fairy, let me get all these ideas and not do any of them, or like, we're just going to work all day. Like, you have this evenness, which breeds the creation, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this is what I'm kind of getting from this conversation. I'm hoping people are dropping in around this. It's like, how well can we feel them in their dance and in their negotiation, these two energies, right? And it feels really, really yummy. There's more there for people to play. And yeah. And to me, that feels like fucking myself. Like, it's an inner fucking between my yin and my yang. It's coming in and it's going like, and then the birth happens. Right? It's like, yes. Yeah. And then being able to, I think the other thing too is being able to feel what energy is needed in the moment, which
totally
you can get through dance, right? Because in dance, you turn off your brain. I mean, yeah.
Well, and that's the beauty of one of the many beauties of the training that dance is, to be flexible, when I'm in the role of the dancer, when I'm on the dance floor doing my dance, I'm not the DJ. I'm not choosing the music. I'm not picking what happens next. My practice is to meet the sound with my body and give it everything I have, no matter what it is, even if I don't like the song. And if I don't like the song, then it's like, I get that extra ingredient of that feeling of I don't like this to dance with, and totally. And so it trains us to be more responsive to what's needed, to what's called for in any given moment.
Yeah, instead of shutting, like you were saying in the beginning, shutting down the energy.
Yeah, right? This is who I am. This is how I dance. Like, no, the music is always changing. Can you listen?
Right. Yeah. And who are you really, right? The second that you were saying, like, the words in the identification, they come in and that shuts that down, right? Yeah. And we stop being able to flow. And I love that so much. It's so juicy. I want to check to see if there's any questions for you. Looks like people are taking a lot of notes is what's happening. They're dropping it. There's a lot of notes of like, your brilliance, your genius. So if you want these notes, you could totally use them. That's what's appearing. We haven't gotten questions yet. I think we're clear. Right?
Great.
I think we're clear.
Well, and this is the thing. Like, I'll probably listen back to this conversation and write down what I said, because I don't know what I just said.
Right.
But I feel like it's good.
Yeah, totally. Oh, we got a question for you. Are you ready? This is a nice one. All right, so this question's from Ariel. It says, do you ever find yourself overwhelmed by your emotional or physical reaction to music when you're meeting it where it is?
In literally dancing and being with music, I'm usually not overwhelmed by the music. I can get overwhelmed by what's happening in my body. I can get overwhelmed by the content that opening up that much brings. Yeah. And that's another level of the training, is you're training to hold more energy.
Right.
Training to open up a portal of grief and be able to stay with it so that it can move and become a healing. To meet rage and let it move and do what it needs to do to discharge, so that I can actually see what boundaries I need to set.
Right.
Yeah. but it can be like most people are trained to feel as little as possible.
Right.
To be nice, to be polite, to be cool, to be easy, go with the flow, you know, and not experience big movements of energy through their bodies. We're taught so young. How many people were taught not to cry? You know, or don't be afraid, or don't get angry. So that is a beautiful reclamation that happens of our own capacity to hold our own nervous systems.
Right. Which is, it seems so simple, right? Like trained to hold your nervous system, but it's incredible how, you know, I'm sure you've seen that we're not taught. Like no one, there's no there's only societal teaching of like, go to the doctor, they'll hold your nervous system and do a shitty job at it, right? Or go to the, right? Or go to your mom who will just try to get you to shush, right? So there isn't an actual holding to let all that movement come through. So of course there's overwhelm at the beginning, right? And I know for me, when I started dancing, what helped me so much in the overwhelm was being around other nervous systems that had the capacity to hold me.
Yeah.
Just like what we talk about in sex and why we self-pleasure in circles, right? There's something that happens with energy when it's around another being where you can feel the holding, and then you'll learn over time, oh, this is how I hold me. Do you feel that that's why like your group dances have been so fucking powerful and epic?
It makes a big difference. I mean, those original patterns of shutdown, of defense, of armor are formed in relationship.
Right.
They're formed in community. They're formed because of community, because of needing to survive and be accepted in that community. So it's only in community and in connection with others that new patterns can really come in a safe way.
And what do people normally do? They hide against community so the triggers and the patterning doesn't come up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would also say, like, depending on your level of freeze or holding, there's so many entry points. Doing one-on-one work can take you really deep, really fast in a way that feels much more held than being, for some people, going into a room full of humans who are dancing and expressing themselves is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's too much. What?
Yeah.
And that's what's been cool actually about doing the virtual dances this year, is it opened it up to so many people who would never have set foot in the Get Down.
Because you can stay in the comfort of your living room. That's so beautiful. I love that so much. Yeah, that's awesome. So what I'm getting from this, and you know, what I'm really getting from this is that there's the ability, right? There's an entry point for everyone, first of all, to dance. It's just about getting curious and finding it. Right?
Yes.
The other pieces I'm getting from this is, if you want to create something, create it from expansion, and then drop it in later, right? Like drop in the details later, but start by clearing out all your bullshit conditioning. That's not true or real. Remember who you are first. And then what will happen? Let's end on this. What's possible, Tasha, when everyone finds their entry point? And it might not all be dance. For some people, it might be sex, or it might be fucking. I had someone in my mastermind last year who paddleboarded. That was her way. And I was like, you go paddleboard every fucking day. If that's your way to feel you, don't care, right? So what's possible? What would happen if everyone paddleboards their way to flow and remembering who they are? What's the world going to look like?
I don't know, which is great. It would be something that I don't know what it is, because it's beyond what I could imagine, which I think is the whole point. And it would just, I'm curious what you think it would look like. Do you have an idea?
I think this would be a long conversation, but I don't know if it would ever actually get there, because right?
That's the
natural
other thing.
Flow.
Well, that's the other thing that was appearing is like, that's not why everyone's here.
Right.
Not everybody is here to achieve peak states and like go into flow and have that experience. There's a lot of people who are here to do other things and have different experiences of being alive. But I think for those who want it, for those who like are here for that, what does it look like? What does it feel like? It feels like being all the way here while you're here.
That's right. Yeah. That's totally right. Yeah.
Being all the way alive while you're alive. Meeting the moment, actually being present enough and open enough to receive what's available, as opposed to being trapped in a little circus and there.
I love it. Thank you so much. This is so juicy. I love it. So where can people, first of all, they're going to find you at Creatrix. So if y'all haven't gotten your tickets yet, fucking get in there, because it's going to be, I mean, Saturday night, right? We're just going to go crazy.
Yes.
And it's going to be safe, and you're going to find your entry point, and
completely.
Tasha's got you, right? So thank you for coming into Creatrix and supporting the community that way. But how else? I mean, people don't want to wait. How else they gonna find you?
Yeah, there's two ways right now. I'm just opening a new membership platform. It opened yesterday. It's called The Portal. And we've got, it's basically everything that I've been building this year online, and recognizing the power of dancing together virtually and being able to do this kind of dance and access these states in your home. And it includes 2 live dances a week, daily texts and music from me, and also a whole archive of live dances and music and guided meditations. And it's like a gym for your body, mind, soul, spirit. And so we can put a link. I will put that on my website today. I haven't done that yet. And we can put a link to it. And then I work with people one-on-one who want to really go deep.
I love that so much. Yeah. Thank you. And I highly recommend, because, you know, you are epic. So y'all go play with Tasha, and we'll post links after this. You can all have it. But fantastic. Thank you. So thank you so much for chatting and saying hi to the community and hanging out. I'm so super duper grateful. This was so yummy. And it's just so great to see your spirit just shine all the time. Like, it's the best thing to witness and watch in all flavors of you. So thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you
Thank
too.
you. Thank you for being a reflection always. And just, yeah. I will share with everyone, one of my favorite parts of pandemic life is that Genevieve and I struck up a dedicated WhatsApp voice memo relationship. Like, we had always danced together. We'd always been kind of dance floor friends. And then we started like really getting into the voice messages. And that's what I feel like just deepened our relationship this year. And it's just been so fun.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good. All the truth truth talks, all the non-dual talks. That's where we're at in there. Awesome. Thank you so much, love. I'll see you soon. Yay. Bye.